Alright, let's cut to the chase. There's an abundance of Undertale related content on Roblox, and it's been like this for years now. From the decent roleplay games I have fond memories of playing when I was younger, to the copy-paste tower defense games that barely do the bare minimum to make themselves look different from one another.
What the hell is this?
But hey, Undertale is an RPG, right? Where's the RPG games? Well, around 2017, when I was a wee lady and didn't own a copy of Undertale, I was blessed with the creation of Undertale Monster Mania, a game based on Undertale that puts a grindy RPG-like twist to it, which I liked back then. It's why I enjoyed my time playing Don't Forget. I like grinding, clearly. But unfortunately for me, I think around 2018 or 2019, from what I could remember, the game shut down, leaving the Undertale community to play the crap Undertale RPGs like Unwavering Soul. Look, I've put my hours into the game and I can see the appeal, but if you unironically still play this game in 2025, you should kill yourself now. Anyways, after a while, the source code for Undertale Monster Mania was given to the public for free, so people like you and me who know nothing about Lua game development can make an Undertale RPG, which of course sprouted an ever larger amount of Undertale Monster Mania clones. Hell, it's starting to happen with Forsaken too, because of its source code being public. So, I decided, as a long-running UTMM fan, I'd give these games a fair shake and play them for the hell of it. And obviously, these games are pretty grindy, so I'm gonna give myself a playtime of around 30 minutes, since 30 minutes should be enough for me to judge a game at face value. Hi, Editing Hannibal here. I just wanted to say, ignore the 30-minute thing, because I was barely able to play some of these games for a full 30 minutes because of how utterly boring they were. So, sorry for lying to you. We'll get back to the video now. And if you can't hook your player base in the first 30 minutes of a game, I personally feel like you failed. Obviously, I've played a lot of UTMM games, so I might have some on this list that I've already played. I'll be judging those by my experiences playing them and the grievances I've had with them. But that's for later though, so I now welcome you to the first episode of DUMPSTERTALE Mania. Alright, first game. UTMM The Revival Meme. How original already. As soon as I enter into the game, I'm immediately bombarded with sensory overload. For some reason, they made the chat button a giant act and didn't decide to put the chat box in a lower corner like every other UTMM game I play, while also giving the health bar a big box with the soul in view. But that's not really an issue when I learn to ignore it mostly. I am then surprised to see that I have already played this game, starting with a level of 2. I questioned why I had a level of 2 and then asked myself why I had dropped this game in the first place, until I saw the dummy fight. Yeah, this is going to be a trend with these games. For some reason, UTMM clones have an obsession of putting the dummy, who was originally a joke fight in the original UTMM, as the first fight. I never understood it and I found it flat out lazy and repetitive, but hey, I have a video to make so I did the fight. Just to immediately get kicked for having multiple items. I mean, okay, if I have multiple items, you should just disable the ability to drop items. It's not that hard. I found a 48-second tutorial on how to do it in an instant. But instead, you're inconveniencing your player base by having them get falsely kicked for something you could easily solve in 48 seconds. Nevertheless, I had to continue my job. I got back in the server and went to fight the noob, another generic boss fight that appears throughout these type of games. At this point, just add Frogget and Whimsin, at least they make sense. One thing I can commend these copy-paste beginning UTMM sections is that they are really good at treating the player like it's their first time playing. That might sound basic at first, but it's something commendable nonetheless. Anyways, after the fight, I went to go and check the weapons he dropped in. 57 damage? Which, 2 shots the noob. I mean, it makes the grind less horrible, but at the same time, why not just make the level requirement for the next fight shorter if you want the grind to be short? You're solving the issue by keeping the issue you already made but make it faster to get through. I'm not that talented in terms of Lua coding, but that seems like bad game design. Now, after getting through the slog that was the noob grind, we now have to fight a doggo. Why is this marketed as an Undertale game when it requires me to fight free model garbage to actually get to the Undertale stuff? This fight wasn't that annoying, just again tedious, because the next fight after this is level 11, which is just stupid. This may not sound that bad, but imagine if Undertale was just fighting Froggets until level 4, fighting Toriel until level 6, and then fighting Papyrus until level 11. Might not sound that hard, but that's the problem. It isn't hard, it's just tedious. And what is even in there to signify or even dignify the level requirement? The freaking dancer from Dark Souls 3? Whatever. Of course, I went through the tedious grind. It got so boring to the point I learned that you could jump like you're bee hopping and did that to pass the time. Eventually, I got to level 11 though, and got to see what the next boss was. Oh, hey, a meme hasn't been funny since the Geodash 2.2 update. I really don't want to play this anymore. And what do you know? As soon as I try to get my new weapon, the game kicks me again. You know what? Screw the 30-minute thing. If I was playing casually, I would have put the game down as soon as I saw the overused dummy fight. You want to know why? Because I've done that before already, clearly. The game does nothing to make itself different compared to the other UTMM games. No wonder I forgot that I played this. It blends in my mind with every other game. It does nothing to keep me playing, and though determination is the main message of Undertale, you can't rely on determination alone as a motivation when it comes to playing a UTMM clone. I give this game a 3 out of 10. I can see potential somewhat, but for now, you aren't doing anything special, and there's nothing in the game for me to want to play yours over any other UTMM game. Remember that you have competition and you can't just pump out slop, or else why would I play your game? Anyway, let's get to the next thing before I get an aneurysm. Alright, next game. UTMM True Abyss. What a serious title. I hope that isn't just a title purely there to sound cool and has nothing to do with the actual gameplay. Before we get into the game though, we have a pretty lengthy description to read, and I'm interested. It reads, "Welcome to UTMM True Abyss. This is one of my highest quality UTMMs in my opinion. Do not dislike if you cannot defeat something or something you don't enjoy. Just tell a member of staff. If you can't, just don't leave a like or a dislike. Please do not hate on the game if it's not how you want. Ask a member of staff and it will get passed down to me." I wanted to read this because it gave me a bad taste in my mouth before I even went into the game. Why are we telling people not to dislike something? Sure, hearing constructive criticism instead of getting a dislike for no reason is good to hear, but sometimes people really don't care that much to do all that. I highly doubt anyone is gonna not dislike because you told them not to. It's better that you just take the dislike to the chin and just get better yourself. Anyways, by now my interest was piqued, so I went into the game curiously. And I don't hate the lobby. Granted, it isn't the best thing ever, but everything looks cleaner and Dez is looking even more dripped out in that Akatsuki fit. This is a good start so far. I got slightly confused while walking around the area, but I was soon able to find the location to fight the first boss, and it's a dummy again. See what I meant by trend? Please, stop doing this dummy thing. I've dropped so many UTMM games strictly because I'm tired of this. Randomly though, I found a weird secret area with a bunch of people and of course decided to join the free boss to possibly get some free XP, just to find out it was completely useless. I was invited to do another fight with another, I'm guessing, secret boss just to hear, "My mommy said no more Stevie toys, so I left a poo-poo in her chocolate." Okay, I don't care about your feelings. I'm in my bed recording gameplay in the middle of the night and you decide to bombard my ears with some bullcrap with a game that's been cranked all the way up to 200. And this is your highest quality UTMM game? Do you see me laughing at you assaulting my ears via sound waves? No! That shit is no, you don't. Trash, dog. If you want to make a joke fight, but please don't rupture my eardrums with it. Now, after realizing that fight with Mr. Ear Rape Guy gave me some gold, I decided to go to some of the shops to see what I could buy, before eventually finding a dirt cheap OP weapon that one-shots everything. Oh my god, it's like you want me to call your game bad. Seriously, I don't want to be a negative person. I'm not even cherry-picking these games. I just scrolled down the UTMM search tab and found the game randomly. But I have to judge these as fairly as possible. And the most fair thing I can say is, why does this game exist? For one, you don't have to worry about dying while grinding, so the grind doesn't feel earned because you're one-shotting everything. Let's not ignore the fact that these enemies barely have any attacks for me to dodge. Why not just play clicker heroes at this point? I get the same amount of enjoyment by playing that game than I do this game. None! I tried. I really did try to go for 30 minutes, but this is possibly the worst grind I've ever had in a UTMM game, because you have to fight the same boring, uninspired bosses at least 5 times before you get to do the next fight. And again, that doesn't feel earned because I'm one-shotting everything. I am not asking you to make a cheesecake. I am not asking you to make a shepherd's pie. I am asking you to make Kraft mac and cheese and put your own seasoning on it. You have the base, now be creative. You have no excuse for your limitations on how you can make a UTMM game when games like Deltarune 3D RPG exist. And I have some stuff to say about that game, sheesh. You're clearly not an experienced developer when it comes to this stuff, I get that. But you can't just make an objectively subpar game and then beg people not to dislike it. I'll give you a 4 out of 10. You get a rating higher for having a better and more promising presentation. I really should make it another 3 since you really didn't earn the 4, but I'm cutting you some slack because there's a clear, higher form of effort in play. You just need the gameplay aspect of all it down. Anyways, next game. Undertale Monster Mania Repaired Timelines. I can already tell you this is a good one considering I played it before. Well, for the most part it's a good one, that is. As soon as you get into the game, you're greeted with a main menu, which is a rarity in these type of games. The camera angles up towards Sans standing in front of Groby's, clearly keeping his word about going to Groby's at the end of his fight. Sans, clearly wounded, asks himself, did I lose? Almost as if he can't believe what happened or is having memory loss as he slowly bleeds out. This little scene isn't that important to the actual gameplay, but this is a neat thing to see. Once we get into the game, we are greeted with a cozy aura of the MTT Motel, along with various Sans and Papyruses from across different AUs. Though stuff like this has been done to death, it's refreshing to see something normal that isn't the same dummy fight again and again. Now to talk about gameplay. The gameplay of the game isn't that bad. Most of the time you are fighting Sans and Papyrus variants, so the main thing you have to deal with is lowering the amount of dodges or blocks a Sans or Papyrus has, which kinda gives the HP a backseat. Which doesn't mean you shouldn't have a high damaging weapon, because you'll still have to whittle down a health bar. I'd say the fights, at least in the pre-reset portion of the game, aren't that bad. I'd even call them fair and balanced, besides some things like spinning bones and stuff, which I'd murder in a heartbeat if it was a person. The dodge mechanic isn't even just a second health bar like you'd expect. It acts as a way for Sanses to teleport around the map, which makes you have to chase them down while dodging attacks. This, I really like. UTMM games sometimes devolve into learning the attack patterns of a boss, dodge that pattern, hit them once or twice, and then repeat. But this game fixes that problem by not having an enemy stay in a fixed location all the time. There is a crafting mechanic, which sure is in other UTMM games, but I don't mind the inclusion, though some of the rewards are underwhelming and I also feel healing items are sort of overpriced. And that wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the after reset fights. Yeah, I mentioned how pre-reset is fair and balanced, but after reset, it just goes downhill. Bosses begin doing 45 to 100 damage while spamming blue bone wall attacks, plus attacks that you'd have to dodge at the same time, basically forcing you to take damage from one or the other. Health bars feel bloated, and the overpriced healing items aren't enough to compensate. This isn't even a get good scenario or anything, because how could I even deal with this? I feel that if you just buffed some of the weapons, or not even that, just nerf the bosses in general, we could have a better situation here. Because I like this game, I wouldn't have grinded out a reset if I didn't like it, which is why I really want the developers to fix this issue. Please, you have a really good game on your hands. Maybe if you chilled with the attack spam, lowered the damage, or hell, even lowered the health bars, we could have something special here. I'll give the game a 6 out of 10. The presentation is amazing, the gameplay is great, and it really shows what you can do with the UTMM engine. But the high damaging attacks, massive health bars, and attack spam is something that can't go unpunished. If stuff like this was fixed, the game is an easy 8 out of 10. But for now, this is where we stand. So now, let's talk about our last and final game. Okay, so the next and final game is Undertale Universal Massacre. But to be clear for a second, I need to point out that as I was recording gameplay and writing this part of the script, and I'm guessing while I'm recording this part of the video now, I don't know, I usually do it at random, I had a really bad sore throat and my nose was congested, so I was already pretty annoyed. This is to say right out the jump that this is a good game, I just don't f***ing like it. The visuals are good and unique. It has a main menu and it even has a starting area mirroring Don't Forget, which was cool to look at. To be completely honest, the gameplay is subpar and laggy as all hell. And I know it isn't because of my system since I am playing on a Steam Deck. This is an issue that I faced in the past on my computer since I've clearly played this game before. So I'm going to chalk it up to unoptimization. Anyways, when it comes to gameplay, it's basically the same thing all the time, and I mean all the time. Every Sans is virtually the same with barely any differences besides AU and theme. For some reason, they charge directly at you despite not having any melee capability, and it just makes fights as awkward looking as smacking around a guy who just literally stands there and takes it. There were some fights that had some variety, like Betty Noor, the only good part of Glitchtail besides the Hate Soul Fight Me, which had spears, scythes, and stuff like that. But for some reason had these giant, like, pink fireball attacks that were hard to dodge because I couldn't tell where the hitbox was. A cool thing I will commend is that Sanses don't have overly huge health bars. They have around like 10 to 100 health at the most. at least in the early stages. You'd think stuff like this would trivialize fights, but the devs compensated for this by having weapons do small amounts of damage, which balances it out, at least in my opinion. Now for like the main reason I don't like this game and stuff, the Disbelief Papyrus fight. For one, it's too long, like really long. It takes almost 6 to 10 minutes alone to get to Phase 3, so you already know it's a slog to replay. Also, speaking of Phase 3, I think the devs placed a ranged boss directly next to the box the Phase 3 fight is located in, because if you didn't know, the fight locations for UTMM bosses are just placed into the air out of sight. So we just have a high damaging boss from a different fight throwing high damaging stars at me while Sans is sniffing my butt. If this isn't intentional, that's just annoying. Another problem I have is that this, again, annoying fight locks your ability to reset until you beat it. Devs, stop doing this. This was also present in repaired timelines, but I forgot to mention it. Locking progression behind a boss like this is a quick way to get people to drop a game, especially since this is a gimmick boss. Your armor literally does nothing. You are hard capped at 92 HP. You can't even put in armor that heals you passively to make the fight more bearable. There's no tactic here, it's just brute force. Look, I'm not saying locking a hard boss behind progression is completely bad. I'm a Dark Souls fan for crying out loud. But the difference between this and Dark Souls is that there's a strategy to be made. This boss is clearly reliant on melee, so why not go for a more ranged option? This boss has a high defense against poison, so put something on that negates that. I know it's crazy to compare an Undertale Monster Mania game to Dark Souls of all things, but as I stated before, you can do much more with this engine than just big damage equals good and dodge attacks sometimes. I don't want this sub-RPG genre to devolve in a slop like what's happening with Forsaken. I want people to do something different without hindering the player experience. This game is mid. I give it a 5 out of 10. It feels good to play most of the time, gets boring at other times, and is just overall subpar. I don't know if it gets better after the Disbelief fight, and I frankly don't care. I believe you should always put your best foot forward in the beginning of something and not do it near the middle. It's stupid for me to look at a whole bunch of bullcrap before I get to the good stuff. I'm looking at you, Adventure Time! So, please, devs, if you are still updating this game, I don't want you to change anything major or anything like that. Just move whatever the heck that thing is in the Disbelief Phase 3 Papyrus fight. So you made it to the end of the video. Yeah, I only did 4 games. I was planning on doing 10, but I'm not in the mood for that stuff. This video was made as more filler while my editor finishes up another video that I'm passionate about. In fact, if my editor is watching, I hope this gives you a clue on how I like my videos to look in a more visual sense. If you want me to play some more Monster Mania games, ask in my comments or join my Discord server. I wouldn't mind doing something like this again next time. So for now at least, this is farewell. Off to my trans can I go.